What is trans panic? You've probably heard people talk about the regressive backlash against the trans right movement referred to as a moral panic, much like the Satanic Panic in the 1980s. And that's true. From the slogan-like chants of, "They're coming for your kids," to the belief literal demons are behind it all, the irrationality is identical. The only difference, and a very important one, is that unlike the fictional Satanists of the previous generation, bathing in the blood of the innocent, trans people actually exist. Unfortunately, that's not what we're talking about today. This trans panic is a legal defense. As you're probably aware, trans people are especially vulnerable to extreme unprovoked violence. One of the reasons why is that in much of the US, simply encountering a trans person is considered sufficient grounds to justify homicide. The scenario might go something like this. A man meets a woman, flirts with her, they exchange numbers, and somewhere down the line, she tells him that she's trans. At first, he's fine with it. We're attracted to who we're attracted to. But after a while, eventually the man's friends hear about his new partner. Perhaps they mock him relentlessly, call him every applicable slur, and generally make life miserable for the fellow. So to redeem his manhood in their eyes, he kills her brutally. That happened right here in liberal New York, and the man in question told the court at his trial that because of the victim being trans, he could not control his rage. His murder charge was downgraded, and though he was convicted, his sentence was reduced to just 12 years. The trans panic defense is super effective. According to Professor Karsten Andresen of St. Edward's University in Texas, who tracks these cases, 32% of offenders using this defense receive severely shortened sentences, and 1 in 20 criminals who admit guilt but plead trans panic are acquitted entirely. Despite how horrible the situation is, there is some good news. From Aaron Reed. On Friday, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz signed into law H.F. 5216, a supplemental bill that includes a ban on the gay and trans panic defense. The law, which narrowly passed the Senate on a party-line 34-33 vote, prohibits individuals who commit violence against gay or trans people from using the victim's identity as a justifiable reason for their actions. Specifically, the law states that it is not a defense to any crime that the defendant acted, quote, based on the discovery of, knowledge about, or disclosure of a victim's LGBTQ+ status. In recent years, there has been a push to outlaw such defenses. New Hampshire and Delaware outlawed the defense in 2023, and New Mexico banned it in 2022. Here's a map from the Movement Advanced Project that shows which states have banned trans panic as a defense so far. Including Minnesota, the total will become 19, plus Washington, D.C. Efforts in the remainder are ongoing, though Republicans in Montana, Arizona, Florida, Michigan, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin all voted to keep trans murder legal. In the Minnesota Senate, the bill barely passed, also along party lines. Democratic Senator Bonnie Westland, seen here on the right at this year's Minnesota Lavender Bar Association meeting, said, quote, "Gay and trans Minnesotans deserve the same protections under the law as all our neighbors receive. Gay and trans panic defenses are based on irrational fears and prejudice toward LGBTQ+ people, and they imply that violence against LGBTQ+ people is acceptable under certain conditions." The new law will go into effect August 1st. The remaining 31 states need to do better. But for today, this much at least is good news.